Abuja.
Thanks for staying with We FM 106.3. It's now 22 minutes past 2 o'clock. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. You're listening to Frankly Speaking. My name's Kamri. Right, let's just jump right in, shall we? Our area of focus today, we're going to be talking about redefining Nigeria's leadership structure. Choosing, the best fit. That's our discussion for today. Many times we go on about thinking outside the box, coming up with best ideas to drive our enterprise forwards. And to that end, I've assembled a panel of gentlemen I believe can do justice to the topic. We're basically here to ask questions, okay? We're not here to reinvent the wheel. That's already been invented. We're simply here to ask questions because there's quite a lot going on. And we are here basically to ask those questions. Now, in May 2019, Professor Patrick Lumumba, he gave a talk on democracy in Africa. And his presentation centered around one main theme: decolonizing African minds. How do you decolonize the African mind? A famous musician sang about it. His music has outlived him and still rings true today. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. That's Bob Marley. So the question, how do you decolonize, the African minds regarding governance? Now, Professor Lumumba, he said that it was time for Africa to define for herself what democracy means. He was speaking at the National Security Symposium, which held at the Rwanda Defense Force Command and Staff College. This was way back in May 2019. I urge you all, go to the social media platforms and look out the video. All right, time for Africa to define for herself what democracy means. Go and give it a listen, because he proffers some thought-provoking ideas which we reckon are necessary if we are to keep pushing ourselves to evolve, to become a better version of ourselves. We need to keep asking these questions. Now, here in Nigeria, for decades, many ethnic nationalities right here have cried marginalization. You go to different parts of the country. Doesn't matter what neck of the woods you're in. You will hear that term, we're marginalized. It's prompted me to ask the question, if everybody's marginalized, then who's marginalizing whom? So it's a big issue with us, marginalization. And right now, the voices of self-determination, that's using a kind word, the voices of secession, that's the proper term. The voices of secession recently being fueled by nationwide insecurity, those voices seem to be getting louder. And recently, speaking virtually at the Bola Tinubu colloquium, President Muhammadu Buhari, he emphasized on the unity of the country. Many people disagree with the argument for a united Nigeria. So the question is, how then do we progress as a family? If some members of the family want out, how do we progress? So I've assembled a panel of gentlemen. I will go through their names again. We're still expecting one more to talk about, again, redefining Nigeria's leadership structure, choosing the best fit. What's the best fit for us in Nigeria? Not in Togo, not in Cameroon, not in Niger. All right, here in Nigeria, what's the best fit for us? And I'm very, very happy to welcome to the discussion. Again, I'll start from my right. Ibrahim Modibbo. Ibrahim Modibbo is a veteran journalist and he's a publisher. Very happy to have him. He's also my senior brother. Yayana, as I call him. Ibrahim Modibbo, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And also here with us is a public affairs analyst, Donald Ideh. Thanks so much for coming down, Donald. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kamri, and good afternoon, Abuja.
I really appreciate it. Very short notice, but Donald, again, he's come through. I do appreciate it, Donald,
You're
honestly.
welcome.
And also with us is the very, very popular newspaper columnist with The Punch. He's also an expert on electoral matters. So he's no stranger when it comes to matters regarding governance. Also a pleasure to have in the studio, Jide Ojo. Jide, good afternoon and welcome.
It's a pleasure. Good afternoon, frankly.
You can call me frankly. I know. No, Jide, honestly, thank you for bringing that out. I know there are many people in this city who want to call me frankly. I won't say no. If you host a program called Frankly Speaking, Francis and Frank are always, on the tip of your tongue whenever you meet me. So
it's all right.
I understand.
It's a pleasure. Happy Easter in advance.
Happy Easter, one and all. Yeah. All right, now, again, we're here to talk about redefining Nigeria's leadership structure. Choosing the best fit. I just laid some groundwork here. So in order for the discussion, because when you talk about matters of governance in Nigeria, the discussion is very, very wide and broad. It's sad, but 60 years on, we're still talking about fundamental issues in our country, not just infrastructural, but policy-wise as well, and so on. This is where we find ourselves. So it's a wide thing. But to help us along, I'd like us to try to identify. All right, let's try to identify some of the challenges that are widely discussed regarding moving governance forwards. Now, again, this can be a wide field, but I think if we narrow it to key areas that accommodate for a lot of challenges and wrongdoings, we will get along. Let me start off. Ethnicity, for example. This is a challenge. Do we agree that ethnicity is a challenge? Now, the thing is, we have a very deeply rooted sense of identity to our ethnic groups as Nigerians. This is who we are. We need to embrace it. We need to understand that. We're taught to regard each other. We're taught to interact with one another according to our ethnic identities. The question, where are you from? In some other parts of the world might be chalked up to curiosity. In Nigeria, it takes on many more meanings because this is who we are. It's not a good or bad thing. It's simply who we are. For example, in many conversations, we have a simple question like, where is that woman that sells corn outside the office? The Nigerian way to ask that question is, where is that, let's say, Gwari woman that sells corn outside the office? We use a lot of labels. Let's be honest with ourselves. Okay, so ethnicity, this is one of the challenges we have because, again, the tie and connection to ethnic identity is so profound. It's so profound that discussions like patriotism, suffer for it. Let's be honest with ourselves. So the question is, a person has different layers of identity. How do we benefit from our other identities beyond the ethnic veil that most of us wear? Let me start with Donald.
Sorry, because this is one of my favorite subject areas.
Yes.
I fundamentally disagree that the relationship between the individual and the state should be through the lens of your ethnic identity. I think what should be the primary relationship between the individual and the state should be your rights as a citizen. The whole question of representation and marginalization does not arise if we respect minority rights. The reason why we have the fundamental problem is because we do not respect fundamental rights. For example, discussion about leadership comes up, and the only three groups that are ever discussed are either Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. Those are not the only three groups in Nigeria. We have over 250 ethnic minorities. But you cannot build a relationship with the state on the basis of your ethnic identity. What the state should do is protect your ethnic identity and respect the distinction between the private sphere and the public sphere. In terms of the public sphere, what the state is there to guarantee is everybody having equal rights, equal access to those rights, and equal protection of those rights as a citizen. The reason why ethnicity got caught up in it is because the colonialists ruled us through our ethnic identities. They were like, you're Igbo, you don't seem to have a chief, we're going to give you a warrant chief, therefore now you have a king, follow what the king does. They were in the north and you have the emirate system. What we're going to do is we can't be bothered to go and govern you in terms of your village. So what we will do instead is that we'll give the emir orders and the emir will carry out the orders. So it's as a result of colonialism, we now ended up with ethnic identity being a prism or a lens through which the state relates to its citizens. What you want, equal rights, equal access to rights, equal protection for everyone, irrespective of your identity. It's because we failed at inception to recognize that difference. We now opened the doorway to ethnicity being the primary relationship that we have with the state. So we have on our census forms, where's your ethnic identity? In terms of your application form, where's your ethnicity? What do you do? What then happens with that data? That data now helps you to say one group has been marginalized, another group has been marginalized. Given the number of ethnic minorities we have in the country as a whole, each ethnic minority is a nation in itself. You cannot have equal and fair representation for everybody. And representation for what? The idea is to bring development. Your ethnic identity does not bring development. So we're not really having the conversation we want to be having. Instead of saying we don't have light, we don't have electricity, we don't have any water, we're saying we are marginalized. So that if you now get into, it's a winner takes all mentality. So that if you now get into office, you're now the president, you will now clobber all the resources of the state for your own people. That's not democracy.
Okay, Ibrahim Modibbo, your ethnic group for one, has come under quite a bit recently. We're cousins, by the way, come from the same neck of the woods. So, when we talk about ethnicity, there's the Fulani discussion that is ongoing. But Ibrahim, listen to what Donald said. What do you make of it? How do we get people again to benefit from other identities beyond our ethnic identity, which is so strong?
Thank you very much, Kamri, for assembling this brilliant panel to discuss this issue of fundamental importance to nation building. I want to ask, is God faulty in bringing people of different ethnic groupings as a country? No. Is Nigeria the only country in the world that has different ethnic groupings? No. Therefore, I want to believe, based on the background given by Donald, he brought from the colonial period, how we've been amalgamated, from different things. God has a reason for it. The more the merrier. I strongly believe that there is no part of Nigeria that is useless. Every part of this country is of fundamental importance to nation building and nationhood of this country, whether we like it or not. The East will depend on the North. The North will depend on the South will depend on the East, and the East will depend on the North. Now, as he stated, by virtue of the geographical location of this country, people have been talking about three major ethnic groups. The Hausa, they even forget about Fulani. They are very fundamental.
Amwatiye.
Amwatiye too.
There you go.
You see, they only talk of Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa, or Hausa Fulani. Look, there are so many other ethnic groups in this country. And these ethnic groups, God has brought us together to form a nation. Let me tell you, even if every state is given a country as it is today, believe me, there are people that will complain of marginalization. In fact, even in a town.
In a family.
Yes. There will be complaints of marginalization.
There's a favorite child syndrome. Yes.
And you see, this national marginalization under our current democratic structure is based on the greed and the need for a winner takes all. People believe that if my own person gets the presidency, it's an automatic transfer of fortune from one geographical area to the other. I strongly believe in a democracy, in a democratic setup, just like Patrick Lumumba stated. Nigeria, we've been able to come up with strong personalities rather than institutions. And that is the major albatross of this country. We must have strong institutions, not strong personalities. And therefore, in democracy or a democratic setup such as this, especially now, looking at the issue of Fulani who are being my people, who are being profiled everywhere here and there, they're just been turned into Tutsis and this of this country. They are everywhere you find people attacking Fulani, killing them. But the fundamental question is, are all Fulani people bad? I will say no. In every community, in every society, whether Yoruba, Igbo, in fact, the Fulani people learned about this kidnapping from Niger Delta. When they were there, raising their cattle, maybe they saw the way the Niger Delta started, kidnapping Europeans for ransom, kidnapping Nigerians, wealthy Nigerians. So they came now and started learning the trade. Because their cattle are finished, because of cattle rustling, and also because of crisis between farmers and herders. Now, the fundamental question to ask is, must people start agitating for the breakup of Nigeria? I would say it is not a good omen to this country. But let me tell you, but who cares if at the end of the day, we say that Nigeria should break up? If states like Niger can exist, why any other part of this country can't exist? But I strongly believe the more the merrier. But if we say we're going to break up, so be it. Let everybody go. Everybody has the potentials of holding itself as a country. So people should not be blackmailed because of where they come from to be made scapegoats. I do not see the basis of, especially on this current democracy, I cannot see any reason why a Yoruba man should start to complain they have been marginalized. He has the vice president, all the ministers, virtually almost all the roles that you can think of great importance in this country is in the southwest. I don't know why Buhari, despite all this thing, almost all the development things are going to the southwest, to a detriment of the north. I challenge anybody, bring statistics.
Okay.
I will tell
Well, you're on the right platform for that one, Ibrahim Modibbo.
If the Igbos, for any reason, have decided to, cry out marginalization, I will support them. I will support them in the sense that this is a country that should be governed by a reason where every section of this country should be represented. But the major pitfall of the Igbos is the issue of Biafra. 2, the issue of also not joining the mainstream. Since nation building right from the colonial period, the Igbos have never been in the mainstream. Most of the times you find them because of their
let me ask you a direct question,
yes.
And I'm going to ask it around the panel as well. When I come to Jide Ojo, I'll ask him the same question.
Yes.
The Igbo question now, do you believe the Igbo have been excluded from holding the highest public office in the land? I use my words deliberately, excluded. Excluded meaning, no, you're not allowed to come to this place. That is the principal office in the land. And are we still punishing an entire ethnic group based on what happened in the 60s?
No. The thing is, it's not about exclusion. It's about population. You see, the Igbos, because of a liberal kind of coexistence, they've not been able to move into the mainstream. And as I'm talking to you today, as an APC person that has sympathy with the party, I am canvassing for the Igbo presidency in 2023. For very obvious reasons. Because these are the only ethnic group as it is today that have not been able to test power. And of the 3 blocks...
they have had power, vice presidency, but presidency, they've not held the prime...
Exactly. That is what I'm saying.
All right, Ibrahim, we'll come back to that during the course of the discussion.
I strongly believe they should be integrated into the mainstream.
All right, let me come now to Jide Ojo.
Thank you.
Jide, well, you've listened to both of them. Again, we're talking about identities. How do we, again, recognize these other identities? Can they take their proper place? Because a human being is made up of many identities. I've got a professional, a religious, a social identity, a geographic identity, a biological identity, and they're not in competition with one another. How do we balance it out? And what do you make of their 2 submissions, Jide?
Very brilliant submissions by my co-panelists, but I think what is missing, the missing link for me, is lack of equity, justice, and fair play.
Okay.
That's just it. That's the missing link. Look, my column will come out in Punch tomorrow, and I actually, as if I knew, even though I never knew about this invite until this morning.
No, me and you, but the way you write comes and the way I do, we're on the same wavelengths.
Maybe in a sense.
We're on the same wavelengths.
I wrote on zoning, and I just like my elder brother Modibbo, I'm in full support of Igbo presidency in 2023, and I advanced my reasons, but that's under wrap until tomorrow. The issue for me, as I was researching for that piece, I picked my copy of the Constitution and I read section 14, sub 3 and sub 4. We talked about federal character and the need for inclusive governance. You cannot be talking of inclusive governance when power is just oscillating between north and south. In fact, more like northwest and south and southwest. Do you understand? And every federalism, you need to have what is called political engineering that will serve the larger interest. There will always be marginalized group. There will always be minority within minority. If you go to Benue now, you talk of Chief Idoba, but there is Igede. There are other smaller groups in Benue. So, but I was surprised. I worked for 2 years in Bauchi, and I realized that the Hausa population in Bauchi is actually minority.
There are many other tribes.
You have other major tribes that are not even Hausa, but you won't know until you go there. Look at Nasarawa here. Are you saying that Hausa Fulani are in majority in Nasarawa?
No.
But you see, because of our mindset, because we have never really ventured far out of our comfort zone, we never knew what obtains elsewhere. Even the South, it's always about the Ijaws. What about Efik? What about the Igbo? What about the Benin? Are they not part of the South? Do you understand? But what I'm saying is that power. I picked something from you, Kamri, many years ago. Bragging rights. The whole issue about presidency is about bragging rights. It then doesn't mean that if you will become a president today or tomorrow in 2023, all the resources of Nigeria will be channeled to Igbo land. It's not going to happen. It might even be counterproductive for them. And I cite examples. When Obasanjo was there for 8 years, what did he do for the Southwest? Even the bridge linking his farm in Ota, he didn't complete it in 8 years. The link bridge between Songo and the Songo Ota bridge, those who are Yoruba, who are watching me, who are listening to me, will tell you. After Obasanjo's presidency, they were studying with pure water that you are a failure. You were there as the president, #1 citizen. You never completed Ibadan Ogbomoso Ilorin road.
Okay, now Jide, let me just come in there, because what you said is it's quite significant, and here's the reason why. Because again, I think we're dealing with a case of public perception not aligning with reality, because the expectation out there from the everyday Nigerian is, again, the bragging rights, very important to us. But some of us will actually say, oh, they are taking everything to their lands. We're still thinking on that pre-1914 level. That's what I call it, pre-amalgamation, when we're all little nations and tribes and this, that, the other. So the picture you've painted here, take President Jonathan, for example. There are many people from the South who accuse him of not doing anything about the Ogoni cleanup. About the Ogoni cleanup.
No, not even Ogoni cleanup. That one is even secondary. East-West Road.
East-West, there you go.
That was the primary reason he and Rotimi Amechi parted ways. That how can we have one of our own as the president of Nigeria, and we don't have road linking this Niger Delta to the rest of the country.
So the public expectation is there, but what is happening apparently when people do ascend to the highest office in the land is different. So where's the disconnect?
Where's the crown? You can't rule Nigeria as a sole administrator. If you become president, in fact, you are like caged, because other interests will come in and they will remind you how they rally behind you to make you the president. So you are holding a lot of political debts. I don't know whether you are getting me. That's why what my elder brother is saying, Modibbo is right. Did Buhari made himself president? He tried 3 times before the 4th attempt. He will get 12 million votes, 11 million votes up north. But he will get less than 25% of the votes in the south. Until he went into that political arrangement with a Tinubu from Southwest. And that was when he was able to get lucky on the 4th attempt. And that's to tell you the story of how elections are won and lost. Look, if the Igbos will be president, for which I support them, they will need to negotiate and lobby. Power is not served a la carte. If power shifts to the south and there's no negotiation, strong negotiation by the Igbos, the Southwest will pick it. Tinubu will get it. You know what? Because if it's about money, he has it. If it's about strategy, network, he has everything. Do you think he made a mistake by taking his colloquium to Kano? Kano and Lagos alone will give you almost 11 million votes.
Well, that's the brilliant strategic move, politically speaking.
But move.
Oh yes.
But what you are saying is that Ohanese and Indigo have to get their ass together and start negotiating. Because if they, and there is a template they can play on. The template of 1998. Alhaji, you were publicity secretary for APP. That was when I got to know you.
Yes.
In 1998, how did you people and AD field Olufalaye? It was a political engineering to placate the Southwest over the annulment of June 12th election of 1993.
That's true.
Because after that annulment, you have NADECO, National Democratic Coalition, you have Afenifere, you have OPC, all of them, in fact, their own was even more than IPOB. OPC was like Oduduwa Republic. It's not today they are talking of Oduduwa Republic, but they were talking about it then because they felt marginalized that one of them, or one of us, I mean, also a Yoruba man, one of us won and you failed to recognize his electoral victory. So the political elite in 1998 came together and said, how do we compensate the Southwest? And they said, okay, there are 3 political parties registered by INEC. AD, Alliance for Democracy, and APP, before it turned to ANPP.
Yes.
They decided to field only one candidate. It was a working alliance.
Yes.
PDP decided to field Obasanjo, but head or tail, a Yoruba man emerged victorious in 1999. And that was why Obasanjo, for 8 years, ruled Nigeria as an elected president. Mark you, Obasanjo did not get the victory in 1999 by Yoruba votes. He didn't even get 25% in many of the 6 Yorubas. It was most people in the Southwest voted for AD candidate, ADAPP candidate, which is Chief Olufalaye. So if it were to be, and so I'm putting this forward because of the argument that Igbos should come to mainstream. Igbo is already divided into 2 now. You have 2 of the governors belonging to APC, 2 of the governors belonging to PDP, 1 belonging to ABGA. We don't know where the pendulum will swing in November this year, whether it's APC that will pick it, Anambra governorship seat, or whether it's PDP. Okay. But whatever it is, if the elite consensus is agreed upon to say, okay, for the next 8 years, let's also bring Igbos to the political table. Let them also have that bragging right. Believe you me, my brother, once PDP and APC agrees on that consensus, you don't need all the registered political parties. Just those 2 dominant ones. Before you know it, whether they throw up Obieze Kwesili or Peter Obi or Chukwuma Soludo or whoever they throw up, they will have one person that will be from Igbo extraction becoming the president in 2023.
Okay, let me just take this quick message on Facebook. Kunle Lawal, he's the executive director of the Electoral College. He's actually streaming this right now, and he says, in power, negotiations aren't done, they are forced by strategic positioning. And that, by and large, is what we've just touched on. All right, now I want to come back to you again, Donald. This time, let's have a look at it from another controversial aspect. Again, we're trying to identify some of our challenges to governance going forwards. And then hopefully at the end of our discussion this evening, we can arrive at what we feel might move governance, all right, depending on slight structural adjustments in the right direction. Another challenge that has been brought up is the Constitution. You can't talk about Nigeria without people telling you, oh, the problem is the Constitution. The question is, will changing the Constitution but retaining our mindsets change governance for the better in Nigeria? The reason I ask that is very recently, President Jonathan, this was at the 18th Daily Trust Dialogue, which was in January. President Jonathan said the theme of that dialogue was restructuring. Why? How? Now, President Jonathan is quoted to have said, we cannot restructure without solving issues that polarize us. Nepotism, ethnic and religious differences, and lack of patriotism. Discussion on restructuring will not help except we restructure our minds. Some of the challenges faced at the national level are still there at the state and local government levels. Donald, what do you think?
I think he's right, but you have to separate the wood from the trees. We are always focused on the symptoms and not what the key problem is. So what he says about the mindset, that's obvious, but those are all symptomatic expressions of the fundamental problem. We've got a dwindling resource, which is oil. We've got a state system that cannot be sustained on the basis of oil alone. We need competition between the states, between the different regions, and most importantly, and this is a fundamental aspect of this, all politics is local. We need to bring democracy to the local level. So all these discussions are very theoretical. They're about the Constitution. They're about how citizens engage. But at the end of the day, we live in communities with people who are similar to us. I want to go out, call a village meeting of the 12 elders in my village, of the 10 elders in my village, identify what the problem is, identify the solution to the problem, go to the political representative who has access to the finance that will solve that problem, and solve my problem. If it's water, if it's electricity, that is what people come together for as a society. So our fundamental understanding of the social contract, the unit of analysis, is not at the federal level, is not at the state, it is at the local level. So 12 people in a community, you have a church, you have a hospital, you have a school. How do we keep those three things functioning? All this concentration on about oil, it's always a distraction. People are fleeing the rural areas because agriculture is not sustainable, there's not enough investment. Life is difficult to maintain. At the end of the day, if you do not give people a reason to remain in the village, they will not remain in the village. And how many people can Lagos absorb? How many people can Abuja absorb in the long run? We see the problems of insecurity in the north, how it affects our food security. We're 200 million people, and yet we can be facing massive starvation in 6 months. and that is because our food security is precarious. And the reason why it's precarious is because we have not focused on investing in rural areas. We need rural electrification. We need education. We need to give people reasons to stay where they are if they want to stay. And the only way of doing that is by creating a local democracy which is effective. What I mean by local democracy that is effective, the people who are most affected by decision have a right to be consulted, have a right to be informed, have a right to play a role in that decision-making process. You can't be in Abuja and be deciding what somebody in Lokoguma or in Daura is doing with their helipad. That isn't how it works. You need to give those people, empower them. Because when they feel empowered, guess what? They don't feel marginalized anymore.
Interesting. All right, so let me take this comment again. Kunle Lawal says, let's start. We don't know our constitution, and the constitution isn't implemented up to 60%. So what's the use of a new constitution that won't be implemented? So it's talking about education, knowledge, and then implementation.
We call ourselves a federal system. Nigeria is anything but a federal system. We have a president who has unlimited discretionary power, and there's a lacuna, there's a black hole at the center of the constitution. You can't have a state which is unable to invest. If a state cannot pay for the teachers, it cannot pay for its hospitals, what are you doing as a state? What is your role there? What are you doing? What we have is different levels of liability crossed across 36 to 37 states. That's what we have. And jobs are not, what's the job rate? It's about 30-something%. Jobs are not going to come by giving people money to go and distribute. Jobs are not going to come by that. You need productive economies. You need to invest in rural areas, invest in agriculture, invest in agro-allied technology. I'm just saying that because we keep on having, the constitution. At the end of the day, what's the point of the constitution? You want, in the middle of your farm, if you marry your wife, you have your children, you want to give them a future. You want to know that your children are going to survive beyond the next reign. You want your children to go to school. You want them to have access to healthcare. That is what every Nigerian, irrespective of your ethnic background, that's what they want. So that your children will have a future. You can have access to education. You can have access to healthcare. Good roads so you can get your product from the farm to the market, make your money and go back and sit to your family. That's what they want. All these other discussions are distractions for the political elite. We have a political system that does not represent Nigerians. That is a fundamental problem. And of course, the Constitution is a byproduct of a political system that doesn't represent Nigerians.
Okay. Kunle has also added to that. He's making reference to the politics is local phrase. He says, politics is local doesn't mean it's grassroots. It means politics must be felt by who it is for. All right, Ibrahim Modibbo, your thoughts? The Constitution, if we restructure, is that the answer to the problems? Because many people saying, that document is not ours. It was forced on us. It's a military document. We have all of that going on. What's your take?
Let me tell you, there is no problem with the Constitution, as far as I'm concerned. That's my personal opinion. But the practitioners, go and bring any Constitution you want to bring. In as much as people are not sincere, in as much as we don't have leadership of quality, leadership of conscience, and leadership that has the thinking and philosophies of the masses at the back of its mind, we're not going to find it right. We're not there. And we cannot be there. Go and bring any constitution you want to bring. Put it on the table. Now let's look at the federation as it is today. Most of the states, the governors are busy looting the monies of local governments. They don't allow teachers. They don't pay their salaries on time. There is no opportunities, employment opportunities at the grassroots. That's what, like my brother Donald rightly stated, people are rushing to either Lagos or Abuja or the city centers. They've abandoned the grassroots. People are educated without jobs. And the local government system, 774 local government of Nigeria, is supposed to be an administrative template where people, based on the local government finance that the center sends, they're supposed to be employing people. They're supposed to be expanding agricultural facilities, giving people jobs, education, doing all that with all the abundant resources. But the governors, at the end of the day, as we see today, most of these governors, they try to bring this local government and state government joint account purely just to loot the monies of the local government.
There's a very strong,
I'm telling you.
There, but go on.
I challenge anybody. Let any governor that will tell me today that he has these monies of local government and he has been giving them correctly. There are just few governors. I know of Kaduna and other governors that are really like even the FCT, they have been given local governments their own money. But the local government should be monitored so that all these monies that goes to them are implemented. They use them in agricultural facilities and what have you. Now, as a nation, we are always dependent on petroleum resources, and that is not the best way to go. We have unquantifiable quantity of solid minerals. We have vast agricultural potentials, beautiful flora and fauna that can only be rivaled by nature itself. So why are we always over-dependent on a resource, oil, that might likely dry up in the next 50 or 100 years? We have children, and their children will come, and their children will come. Nigeria will stay. God willing, if God has not torpedoed the country or torpedoed everywhere in the world. But in as much as we have to, we must get right leadership. That's why, as we were speaking before we started this program about Singapore, I was in Singapore. Singapore had leadership. Singapore doesn't have oil. It doesn't have water to drink. It doesn't have agricultural facility land. All their waters, they are brought from outside. They don't have oil. They have technology. They don't have land. They are feeding more than any other country you can think about. Go and look at their per capita income. It's one of the highest in the world. They have a focused leadership. Leadership based on transparency, honesty, and purposeful leadership.
You've said the word there, meritocracy.
Yes.
These are the things that built that country.
Merit and also
pragmatism, honesty, integrity.
I was in Singapore. Believe me, I have not seen one policeman plying the streets. Nobody will steal your property. They are very honest, very sincere, and they have a leadership that does not condone corruption. Our bane of leadership of this country today is corruption. When you look at the issue of corruption, has to be tackled head on. Then we just look at the issue of developmental structures, and then the issue of banditry and what have you. These are the issues. This Boko Haram, it has destabilized this government. You can see that the president is not even thinking right. When he came, he had the feeling. When he came, as Mr. Jide rightly stated, from 2001, I was the National Director of Publicity of District Publicity Secretary for APP, ANPP, up to 2010. I was the longest serving. So I can tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari, when he came into power at the initial stage, his decision to venture into politics was born out of his patriotic desire to positively respond to our generational challenges. And I thought, based on his historical background, based on what he did before, he could replicate it to Nigerians. But unfortunately, he came now, he has been surrounded by psychopaths, greedy people, rogues, that today we find looting or corruption has eaten deep into roots and fibers of this country. And therefore, we must face these challenges. These challenges will be faced head on. The issue of corruption, the issue of insecurity, the issue of provision of social infrastructure, and the issue of governance itself. Let us put square pegs in square holes.
All right. I think we'll take a quick break there. We need to take some messages. When we come back, we'll be hearing from Jide Ojo. I'll also introduce the new addition to the panel. He's got quite a bit to catch up on. I know he's quite highly opinionated regarding governance issues as well. We'll do our best to accommodate that. All of this when Frankly Speaking returns. Stay with us.
We are Nigerians. We are one people. God made us united in our diversity. We have one history. We have one destiny. We are Nigerians. Let's rise and feel.
We are Nigerians, though of many tribes, and each with a different tongue. We stand united in our resolve to build, to defend, and to honor our great nation. We are a great people, from the beautiful grasslands and savanna to our rich rainforest, in a land flowing with oil and gold. Hear the clatter of groundnuts, hear the whispering palms, see the towering cocoa trees. We are Nigerians.
We FM 106.3.
Thanks for staying with We FM 106.3. The time's now 10 minutes past 3 o'clock. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. You're listening to Frankly Speaking. My name's Kamri, and I'm here with a panel, and we're discussing redefining Nigeria's leadership structure, choosing the best fit. With me on the discussion, I have public affairs analyst Donald Ideh, and also an ace veteran journalist and publisher, Ibrahim Modibbo. Also with us is the popular Punch newspaper columnist and expert on electoral matters, Jide Ojo, as well as the publisher and politician who's just joined us now, Anthony Ehilebo. Anthony, thank you so much for coming down on such short notice. We do appreciate it. Welcome.
No problem, man. It's been a long time we've had a frank conversation.
Oh, yes.
So.
Oh, yes. Long overdue. So I don't know how much of the discussion you followed on the drive-in, but we talked about, let's identify some of the more generic challenges we have to governance in Nigeria. We started talking about ourselves, first of all, the identity issue, ethnicity, how it plays into leadership governance. We're talking now about another issue which has been severally identified. That's reforming, restructuring the constitution as well, and so on and so forth. I don't know if you can just give us your submission, and then we can pick it up where we left off with Jide making his comment on the constitution. But what are your thoughts on those two main areas? Anthony?
No, quite frankly, Kamri, you called me like a very short time, but the topic itself was too attractive to, and it fascinated me, the thought of it. Yes, and I on my way down here, I sort of pinched myself and said, don't fall for the normal mistakes we make, that once you hear a solution, instead of sustaining the momentum on the progress you're making or what the issues are, you get distracted by new ideas. Kudos to the people of Switzerland.
Well, we haven't got there yet. We haven't got there yet. We're just looking at our problems and challenges, ethnicity in Nigeria, and restructuring in the constitution in Nigeria.
Okay, so the truth about it is, there's a reason why the general notion or the inclination of most people is towards restructuring. Because and this is typical of the Nigerian. Every Nigerian has become a local government to himself. So, as much as people are looking at ethnic restructuring along regional lines, we're going to have to even have mental restructuring, because we're going to have to figure out how we as a people need to take charge of our destiny. I think one of the I waited to hear all the solutions other people have put in, because when different people speak, you get a potpourri of solutions, and you try and, I mean, if you're an observer or someone like me who was listening, and you try and pick what you think, the ideas I thought made a lot of sense and would make impact to, if at all, we decided to toe that line of what are the problems of Nigeria and how do we get to solve them. The issue of mental restructuring for every Nigerian is the fact that, okay, so there was a time some of us were born with this idea that after university, the only thing you could do was get a 9 to 5. With the advent of the sort of resurgence of the middle class, which went into business investment, and that's why you have it coming down to a much younger generation now making a success out of it. So the Davidos of this world, the Burna Boys of this world are living off the foundations laid by people like Fela and Co. In the tech world, the foundations laid by people like the guy that did Linux in Nigeria that had this computer, Xynox computers. And then now you have the EIO Beji's Flutterwave, who just did $1 billion. I mean, that is the entire budget of a state for a year, 427 billion naira. So if one individual in the focus with his one tech company can raise that kind of money, it tells you where the new goal should be. But unfortunately, we haven't programmed our society to produce a lot more of these individuals who can then create jobs to accommodate everybody. So to say you're looking at, and with the advent of COVID, it became very clear that we had not put the right infrastructure in place, either as government or as people ourselves, to arm ourselves for what the current global trend is in terms of resource management, resource control, and all of that. So everybody clamoring for restructuring, or the mentality or the drive for restructuring is almost like the drive for perfection, the drive to become, to optimize. So, for instance, you as an individual, how do you begin to manage your resources? How do you begin to manage your own security, within the context that we have as a country? So you're now looking at it at a more exponential level. So it now becomes an ethnic agenda. It now from one person's agenda, it becomes an ethnic agenda, it becomes a regional agenda. But at the end of the day, what is the best fit for each individual collective region? What fits them? What resources do they have to manage themselves? I think at the end of the day, that's the conclusion we must come to as a country. And then how do we now collectively leverage on each other's strengths? So, for instance, if you go to a particular place and they are very good, they have the resources to do a particular thing, how then do they now become a blessing to the next state that may not have so much resources, but will require easement through their land, assuming that they are landlocked, assuming that they have a need for maybe the power that state is generating? So I think it's a long journey. It's not a journey we're going to make in one trip. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But we will have to find what makes us work. What individual, unique strengths do we have, economic opportunities, intellectual capacity that has been developed? What is it that we've been doing wrong? For instance, I think we should be bold enough to say this educational system that we run, where one person gets one score and another person somewhere else gets another score, and you say he's educationally disadvantaged, you're making more lazy people. We have to come to that point where we can openly have these conversations and say, listen, we need to say, instead of giving them a lower score, we need to set a timeline and say, we're going to give you 5 to 10 years with a plan. How do we take you out of this situation so you don't create unfair advantage or disadvantage? So everybody is looking at equality, equity, or an equal society where everybody has equal access to every opportunity that is available. Not because I'm from a particular tribe, I'm given more access. Not because when you look at it, the core of our problems is corruption. Not say corruption of stealing money, but corruption of process, corruption of the mind. So, for instance, you're supposed to give 5 different people who score 20%, but you are now changing and altering the system to favor someone who has less capacity.
Sorry, let me just come in there because you've said something quite significant. It falls in line with part of our earlier discussions. Donald started off by talking about justice being key and so on and so forth. Now, basically, you're talking now about federal character versus a meritocracy. You're talking about quota system versus meritocracy. And, we have to ask ourselves the question as a country. We understand why there's federal character, we understand why there's quota system, but we must ask ourselves at what cost to justice? Because, as you rightly said, if a child has scored a certain amount and they are the best, then they must get their due. That is justice. It is injustice when you set somebody aside with a higher mark in favor of somebody with a lower mark, all in the name of I want to assuage and soothe all these other things, quota system, federal character. So I think it's a discussion we can't run away from anymore because, the world is going at the rate it is, and Donald is about to have a fit. So if I don't let him out, all right, go on, Donald.
Sorry, I'll just try and make it very quick. I mean, that's a brilliant point about Flutterwave, about the issues of the future, about tech, about human capacity, human development.
Yes.
I was reading about organizations that were looking for tech for women in the north, teaching fine tech skills to women to increase their educational capacity so that they can be more economically active. The fundamental problem, we have a political system that does not represent Nigerians. These people are out of date. They represent themselves. These are the kind of issues we should be thinking about in the future. How do we get there? How do we get an educational system that's responsive? How do you get a political economic system that's responsive at the grassroots level? How do you get individuals involved in politics? If you outsource politics, you outsource. They say a camel is a horse that's designed by committee. Because that is what happens. You're giving someone else the responsibility. Those people are not necessarily responding to you, your interest, the challenges, the problem. We have a political class. We have the same people in government for over 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They are not accustomed to the problems that we face as a nation and the problems of where we need to go to. Their visions are dead. Sorry, I get so infuriated when I hear about this because somebody that is fighting for whether if you take somebody with low grades, you put him into a university and he scores low grades, nobody wants a doctor that's not well qualified to perform an operation on you. Nobody wants a national football team which is based on federal character because we know what will happen. They will lose every single competition that they're in. So why do we accept it in the civil service? Why do we think that will produce any results other than what we're dealing with?
Let me come back to Jide. Now, before the break there, we were talking about, again, pick it up from, the restructuring argument. So, Jide, do you agree? I laid out what the former president said. He said we cannot restructure without resolving issues that polarize us, and so on and so forth.
Well, the issue of restructuring, I'm all for it. I believe very much in the fact that we have a flawed constitution, and unless there is a surgical operations to actually devolve power and make the centers of power to be democratized, we are just postponing the evil days. Those 68 items on the exclusive legislative list doesn't have to be there. They are too omnibus. Let me give you a very good instance, Kamri.
Yes.
Who owns the land? The land of every state belongs to the state government. The state government.
Yes.
Held in trust by the governor. But who owns the resources in the land?
The federal.
The federal. No, does that make sense to you? They are talking of ranching, Ruga, and all of that. They are asking the governor to give land. Give us land. Kogi said, I have 1,000 acres to give you. Oyo said, I don't have one plot to give you.
Yes.
Kano said, we already have a whole forest where you can use. The governor, by Land Use Act of 1977, the land is vested in the state government.
Yes.
But the resources of that land belongs to the federal. Is that not antithetical?
It's an anomaly, really.
Is that not antithetical?
It even goes against the Latin max, quid platanto solo sed. He who owns the land owns everything that's filled.
And that is the injustice, social injustice we are talking about.
But it's the mindset.
But the thing is, the first thing, we must all close our eyes one day, open them, look everybody in the face and say our constitution is a fraud.
It's a fraud. flawed.
How can we?
But Kamri,
But hang on a second. Hang on.
You're old enough.
I'm not saying it's
hold
not,
on.
and I'm not saying it is.
I just want to ask you a question,
Go on.
Kamri. By 1999,
Yes.
I don't want to. You're not exactly so young, so you are. No. I wouldn't think you weren't above 18 by 1999.
Go on.
Okay. Did you at any point accede to any constitution called the 1999 Constitution?
No.
Was there any time your consent was sought?
No.
But that constitution says you, at that time, being of sound mind and being an adult,
Yes.
we, the Nigerian people, acceded to this constitution.
Now, Tony, I'm gonna raise this issue. I've answered the question. The clear answer is no, I wasn't consulted. Many Nigerians will say we were not consulted, so why use the word we? My answer to that question is we have been operating this document since 1999. What have we done to change this? That's the bigger discussion. Because you and I have elected.
Because you and I are afraid to say it. We don't.
No,
we don't say
Tony,
it often enough.
gentlemen, sorry, let's be honest with ourselves. We take part in a process that sees people go into public office, especially legislative office at the state and federal levels. I was reading a report about voter apathy in the recently concluded Abuja elections, 3%. So please, for the love of God, let us be very sincere with ourselves. We have not engaged the system the way we ought to. That is why we have a 21-year-old mistake, as we call it, still on the table. So it's not anyone's fault but ours.
But Kamri,
Yes.
much as I agree that we have a flawed constitution, it
Yeah.
is even secondary. The primary thing is that the operators of the system are lackadaisical about it.
And why are they
And
so?
they get away with blow murder. I
Why?
will give you two instances.
Okay.
Two very quick two instances. The president signed into law financial autonomy bill
For the local
2018.
governments. Yes.
No, 2018 for
Okay.
State House of Assembly and State Judiciary.
Yes.
The governor said it is inoperational. The president set up a committee that sat for 6 months, consulted the governor, and after the submission of the report headed by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Senator Itaenang was the secretary of that committee. Now, after consulting the governor to operationalize that section of the constitution, the president came out with Executive Order 10. Since 2018,
18.
this is the third year, the governor said no, they will not allow it. You must have heard of Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria holding protests across the country.
Oh, yes.
Should it be happening?
No.
A constitutional amendment duly passed, signed into law by the president, the governors are saying,
No.
we don't recognize it. That is one.
Kamri, let me come in
Two,
here.
I will say the grand floor to you, my Oga.
Yes.
Two, issue of local government election. You have, over the past 21 years, the governors deliberately not wanting to hold democratic elections into local government. And what the Section 7 of the Constitution says, that no local government should be administered undemocratically.
Quite
so
right.
you go ahead and appoint a sole administrator, you go ahead and appoint a caretaker committee, which is unknown to the Constitution. And up till tomorrow, and that's what the registered parties are trying to hide under. To say, look, you cannot deregister us INEC because all the local government elections have not been held. When you know that many governors careless, there are states in Nigeria who in the last 10 years have not had local government election. There are those in the last 21 years have only had local government election once. And the governors just, they will just crap or what's the right word? They will come into office.
Suspend or
They will suspend or scrap.
Dissolve.
Yeah, that's the right word.
Dissolve.
They will just dissolve the local government administrator. And Section 7 said you are not supposed to administer this local government undemocratically. But nobody has been able to go to court, either as public interest litigant, to say, look, it is an infraction of the Constitution. Those are just two. There are several others. So if you have one now, we are running constitution without constitutionalism. We are running democracy without democrats. And that's what Professor Claude Ake said before his death. We are running democracy without Democrats. So even if you restructure today, even if you have an autonomous process-led constitution today, the same political leaders will make a mincemeat of it.
They don't
Yes,
represent anybody. They don't represent. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say it's the same problem with the rule of law. No respect for the rule of law.
Before I forget, just 1 minute.
Yes.
You see, the whole world, especially America, from where we've been able to borrow this concept of democracy, there is nowhere in the world, no constitution, I dare say, that specifies that every individual must be consulted before an issue will be raised or an issue will be captured in the constitution. No, you can't. Out of 200 million people, you want everybody's consent?
Every door.
You can have a referendum.
But no. Let me come in. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with 1999 constitution, except for a few areas. The practitioners of the constitution are the major problem, as Mr. Jide rightly stated. Go and bring any constitution. Go and do anything you want to do, especially when it comes to restructuring and what have you. If the practitioners are unwilling to kowtow to the precepts of the content of the constitution, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. Look at the governors are sabotaging what the president has done, especially when it comes to this local government autonomy. Issue of state assemblies and what have you. If there is no willpower to implement these things, there's nothing you can do. So the lawyers, the framers of that constitution, especially the 1999 constitution, as far as I'm concerned, I think there's something deliberate to bring mischief. How can you say the land belongs to the state, but yet the resources belongs to the federal government?
They were looking at oil.
So, you see, it's a deliberate thing. It's either you say the land belongs to federal government and the resource belongs to federal government, or you say the land, belongs to the state and the resource belongs to the state. So, in as much as there is no specific this thing that has been targeted, it is out of sheer mischief. So, as far as I'm concerned, framers of constitution usually are people of intellect, mostly lawyers and great thinkers that will sit down and analyze things based on the needs of the federation, put them in the constitution, put them in the right frame of letters, so as to capture most of the essentials of democracy. Otherwise, we cannot go into
all right, gentlemen.
Even if it is election. There are elections in states now. Why you see? Look at Sokoto, 300 votes between one governor and the other at the end of the day. So there is no how you can, even if it's democracy voting, you cannot capture everybody.
All right,
Talk
gentlemen.
I will be very quick. I just want to say we have low electoral turnout at the elections. It's below 40%. It's around 30-something%. People are not interested in elections unless they are getting paid. They are receiving small money when they go and vote.
Yes.
Most Nigerians do not actually vote. The people that vote are less than 30%.
Some people say they've lost faith in the system, so they won't bother.
So that is what we need to look at. That is why I talk about local democracy, bringing decisions to the people, bringing it to the communities, and making sure the local government works. The second point of what Jide was saying, if the university lecturers can get together and say they don't want to do IPPS because it will expose their fraud, well, how much less state governors ignoring the government? It's about governmentality, it's about respect for the rule of law. Lecturers say that they don't want to be on the integrated payment system.
All right, gentlemen, let me just quickly catch up with some messages on social media. Now, on WhatsApp, JJ Pangs Labwal says, good afternoon to you as well. He says, good afternoon to all the guests in the studio. Is that sometime when I hear people crying that they are marginalized, which is making them to ask of their pathway with... I don't understand this. All right, sometimes when I hear people crying that they are being marginalized, which is making them to ask to part ways with Nigeria, then I ask myself, what will the North Central say? I think nobody that is not marginalized, even me, JJ Panks as a person, is being marginalized. But all I need is a good federalism and good leadership. That is why I'm in full support of Southeast to produce the president in 2023.
Sure.
That's my stand. God bless Nigeria. Thank you, JJ Panks. And Lawrence from Area 1 says, I make bold to say that this version of democracy will not help us make appreciable process as a country. I say this because I observe that in the name of the rule of law, judges enjoy absolute discretion to grant all manner of corrupt suspects bail indefinitely, which to me is a big incentive for wrongdoing in public offices. Again, I observe that the concept of security has been reduced to 3 areas: VIP protection, election duties, and roadblock. There are no plans for the masses, but only political elites and government paid workers. Every other person is on their own. I'm afraid we may not move forward with this system of government. And This is Olayinka Makinwa from Dutse here in Abuja. It says, Kamri, you see, some of us know the 1999 Constitution is flawed. But the thing is, the Constitution is okay when internal revenue favors you. But when it's not in one's favor, the Constitution is bad. We need to be sincere with ourselves. Well, I will say this, if somebody's taken advantage of now and you seek, redress, you turn to civil litigation, and that's where your constitution comes into play. But yes, there are challenges with the documents, but we've had 21 years and we're still yammering on about the same thing. All right, let me go quickly to Facebook now. All right, Kunle Adeni says, this is quite an interesting and engaging conversation. This will help us look straight at the issues directly where the need for equity in governance is concerned. Quite a deep insight and background your guests have brought into this conversation. Everyone deserves a sense of belonging and ownership of this country, and they must be equally represented. Kunle Lawal again says, beg your pardon. All right, no, that's an old message. I'd already taken that one. All right, gentlemen, let's now move to the next part of our discussions. Again, we're trying in a very, very short amount of time to identify some key challenges we have with governance. We're not saying these are the only problems, in the country. We've been sort of generic in our focusing on the areas. But now let's have a look at what another country is doing to accommodate some of their challenges. A very interesting story. Now, with the turn of the century, that is around the year 2000, 65% of the population of Switzerland was German, 18% was French, 10% was Italian, 1% was Romanish, and the 6% made up of different people, different parts of the world. This is 2000, turn of the century in Switzerland. Now, Switzerland is a country with a unique system of government. The government is headed by not just one, but 7 individuals who sit as their country's executive head, known as the Federal Council. Each of these members leads a federal department, which is what we know as ministries. The country's 7 departments are, that's ministries, the 7 departments are finances, economy and education, internal affairs, defense and sports, and energy. Simple. 7 departments running that country, one of the more popular ones in the world. This is what it is. Energy, traffic, and environment. Now, they have a final one, which is justice. Justice is the final department. Now, this council of 7 members is headed by 1 member for a term of 1 year. That person assumes the headship. I don't want to say leadership because they're all leads. That one person assumes the headship of that council of 7. And this is for a term of 1 year. That's what it is. That person heads that council for 1 year. That person is known as the president of the Swiss Confederation. That is the country of Switzerland and how they do their presidency. And it is a rotational matter. The presidency of the Confederation rotates among these council members every year. Again, the person heading it is regarded during that time as, Anthony's going to be familiar with this, primus inter pares. First among equals. That's what it is. They all get an equal vote. That's how it works. So, quick backgrounds. What is the Federal Council in Switzerland? How do they choose their members? Well, the elections, their Federal Council is elected by their United Federal Assembly. That's their National Assembly. They are the ones that elect the 7 members of that council. And the election takes place once every 4 years. So every 4 years, the Swiss National Assembly, if you will, sits down and they elect 7 members for that council. And after the council, all right, elections for the president of the Swiss Confederation, that is the headship of the council, that one happens every year. And it's rotational. It happens every year in December. Parliament elects who will head that council. Again, so the power is purely in Parliament. And here's the thing about the Swiss Parliament. You can walk in off the street and observe proceedings and take part in their proceedings. It's that simple. You're walking by, you're having an ice cream. Oh, they're talking about this issue in Parliament today. Let me stop by. You can walk in there and you could stop, the leadership of the, proceedings and, have your say. This is how they interact with their government. That's, again, Switzerland. And I've told you about their ethnic diversity. So here's the big question. Does the Swiss system of governance offer any hope for Nigeria, given some of the issues we've identified? Will a federal council, if you will, made up of one representative from each of our 6 geopolitical zones, will that sort of arrangement work for us? Will it give us a sense of belonging? Will it give us a sense of inclusion? Will it address marginalization? And for added transparency, should the council be made up of people from the 6 top political parties? That's the question. I'm going to come to the electoral experts here and throw that one straight at you, Jide Ojo. So what do you reckon, the Swiss system, can we mirror something that sees the affairs of this country being presided over by not just one, but a representation reflective of our diversity, at least at the zonal level? Jide?
Well, for me, I think I come back to my earlier position about equity, justice, and fair play. I don't think we necessarily have to mirror what obtains in Switzerland, because Switzerland is a small country in terms of, despite the ethnic configuration. I think it's a country of less than 5 million. I don't know the actual population, so you can help me check it out. But you can't compare that size to 206 million people and think you can model that kind of governance structure and think it will sync well with us. I've had this time and again about homegrown democracy. And what is homegrown? We can actually look at our own traditional system. After all, our history of colonialism told us that we have a governance structure in place before the white men. And our people subjected themselves to those leadership structures. Even though
Jide, sorry, let's look a bit more at that, because there was somebody who made a submission when I put up this post about 24 hours ago, and they raised the same issue, and they said we have an indigenous manner of governing ourselves.
Exactly.
And maybe we need to look to that, because if you look at the traditional system, Jide, the chief is not the emperor, so he relies on a council of elders.
I mean,
or a council of chiefs.
The Benin Empire and all of that.
Yes.
The Oba or it sits atop, but it does not rule as a sole administrator. The kingmakers can actually ask him, they can sack him.
To go and commit suicide.
They can ask him to go and commit suicide. They can pass a vote of no confidence in him. And he has no choice. And he has no choice. It's not he cannot cherry pick this one is who said it among you. You are gone. If once they pass that vote of no confidence in you, you are gone. But you see, we can look at the southern African countries. They came up with this Swahili that is now pan Southern Africa. That language and that culture has permeated from Ethiopia to Tanzania to Kenya, Uganda, and all of that. And they all subscribe to it. And that is what they have given Africa. And we can also do something that is homegrown. We need to. I don't think the Switzerland model will sit well with us. We have a peculiarity.
That's the Council of Nigeria, governed by zonal representation.
My brother here at the beginning of this discussion was raising issues about they always think in Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbos. What about me? What about and my friend that wrote in said even he himself personally is marginalized. Yes. How do you assuage this marginalization? By equity, justice, and fair play. If you know, I keep citing this. I was very young. I was very young when Murtala Muhammad was the head of state of Nigeria. For 6 months he was there. Nobody cared whether he was from Kano, he's married to a Yoruba lady. It did not matter. What mattered was governance. People saw life abundant. People saw truth and transparency in governance. People identify, and I can count about 5 Yoruba musicians that made album in the name of Murtala Muhammad because of his leadership qualities. So it goes with these ethnic identities, and that we always it's convenient for politicians to exploit that when election is around the corner, to say, do you know what, we must have this balance and balancing. Fine. It's a very good argument, but I believe it goes beyond that. Whether you are APP, PDP, ABGA, or whatever, what concerns an average person is How do I put food on my table? How do I get job after graduating from schools? How do I me that is living in rural environment, how does governance affect me? Did you know that the insecurity we suffer today was because of absence of governance that has led to this level of insecurity? Because these bandits, they look around, they are living in the bush, there's no pipe-borne water, they have never seen governance, they have to build their own community schools, pay their own teachers, and they don't even have enough infrastructure. And they see this one person who lives large, they go on the internet, they see that the cost of one car is about 40 million. And they are saying, when in my lifetime will I ever come across that kind of money?
Okay.
And this is an incitement to crime. So what I'm saying is that if whatever system we want to copy or adapt, let it be based on equity, justice, and fair play. Political will to do the right thing. In as much as you are impacting positively on your people, they will be rock solid behind you. Look at what happened, what played out in Edo, Anthony. Obaseki was there. Oshomole wanted to make himself a godfather. People said no. we made you who you are. How many months to the election did Obaseki defect from APC to PDP? And he won a landslide.
All right, Jide, because of time.
It's about being with the people.
Yes.
If you are with the people, you do what is right, and people feel that you are working for them, they will not cry about marginalization.
All right, very quickly, because I can only do 3 minutes or 2 minutes each because our time is compressed now. Tony, what do you think?
Well, certainly not for wholesome grabbing of a political culture from another system, because you always have this interface distortion. It won't fit. And also tailor fitting our own style of political leadership will take time. It's not a walk in the park. It's not, and this is something that we must tell ourselves. We must keep making progress politically. If in 1983 the progress of our political development wasn't halted, we would probably not be in this position now. We would have found a solution to it somehow. But this consistent knack for quick fix solutions, or solutions that we have not even thought through. I sometimes shy away from the entire call for restructuring without a thought behind it. We're fully processed. I mean, when you look at the arguments, or you query this now very recent agitations, they're very surface. You don't find depth. You don't find that these guys have not thought through economic survival. They've not thought through infrastructural deficits they currently suffer and how they're going to finance the mobilization of the required infrastructure to survive as a standalone entity, or as a liberated, not even transition, even surviving, and even looking at, look at the statistics from the MBS. How many of them have enough IGR to sustain? How many states in Nigeria can survive?
To coin a phrase from somebody, if you choose to focus on the negatives, you will see the negatives. If you choose to, I don't know what.
No, but the truth is, if there's no positive, you might as well get the negatives turn into positive.
Quite
you talk
right.
about them, and then
the numbers are not good.
No,
they're clearly not good.
So it then tells you that as an entity we're sick, we're dying. As an entity, we're suffering from several cancers that one day we're going to answer that call. And when I feel sorry for those that will be caught up in the mix of everything. But it must happen.
Must it?
Yeah, we're heading there.
You're saying there isn't any hope of changing course?
I'm not a prophet of doom.
We're destined for the iceberg. You're saying we're the Titanic and we're going down.
Unless there's something very drastic that halts the trajectory we're going in.
Like seeing how another person averted their iceberg, for example, and looking how we can steer our own ship. Because again, there's a saying, and we keep telling ourselves this: you can't keep doing the same thing every time and expect a different result. But when we start to proffer solutions, we'll keep telling ourselves, "Oh, that won't work. That won't work." And I'm wondering, are we stuck in a?
Can I put something to you
Quickly? Yeah.
Do you think that the boys who don't have jobs, and they're in the millions, do not see that some people kidnapped 10, 15 people and have suddenly become rich?
It's a dangerous precedent that has been set.
Look, just take, for instance, the way the young people now are headed. I mean, the ones that are educated or maybe more upwardly mobile down south, how they're tilting towards advanced fee fraud, 419, Yahoo, and ritualism. They are there. And except we're turning a blind eye to them.
Tony, me and you are going to have this discussion on another day. But
this ties into what you're saying.
No, because 30 seconds.
Yeah. So the point is, it goes deeper than saying we need to restructure. It goes deeper than saying we need to change the system of governance. It's now how quickly can we halt this free fall that we're in?
Okay, Donald.
Yeah, I agree with him. We say the constitution is a fraud. We say the political system does not represent the interests of Nigerians. The iceberg, we're in the iceberg. What do you think the rates of kidnapping, the insecurity in the land, the rate of unemployment, what do you think they end up, what do you think they all amount to when you put all those things together? And the reason why the political class is not interested is because they are concerned with renovating the National Assembly. If they have their full, I don't know how to explain it. They have a political system that does not represent Nigerians. If you have your full complement of security guards, they're using koboko to whip people in the road. What concerns you with the level of insecurity is until they start running like Autumn, that's when they realize that there are bigger problems in the land.
All right. Ibrahim Modibbo, your take.
Well, I don't know. The Switzerland's calculations, the executive or the group, the headship.
Yes. The council.
The council.
Governing council.
6 geopolitical, 6
No, there's seven. No, there's seven of them. And
seven of them.
And they're like ministers, and amongst the ministers they say, all right, the parliament will now decide you will represent and speak for the rest for 1 year.
Yes.
And then it goes on and on.
No, but if you look at mathematically, it's not even correct. If 7 people under 4 years, how do they manage 1 year?
No. Every year they change. The parliament changes them every 4 years.
Okay, fine.
The parliament changes them every. Elects them, not changes, because sometimes they are re-elected.
Okay,
back.
fine. So what I'm looking at, you see, it will be too late for anybody to carry a fresh dog on new hunting expeditions. You don't do that.
I love our parables.
Yes.
I honestly.
If you see, we have to be very, very sincere to ourselves.
Yes.
We cannot go and start bringing up something that is foreign, especially this thing.
I charge you with this.
Yes.
That is exactly what we did from 1914. Governing ourselves it's foreign to us. Today's democracy is foreign to us, but we've adapted to it. Are we doing a good job? I don't know.
Democracy is just like a hurricane. It's blowing everywhere in the world. So it's not peculiar to Nigeria.
Yeah. But so it was not indigenous to us.
You see, let me tell you.
In the way we do it today.
The way democracy is practiced, since we have aligned ourselves to modern democratic tenets.
Yes.
We have to look at our indigenous system. And I strongly believe there's nothing, to me, personally, it's my personal opinion, I could be wrong, but I don't see anything wrong with the constitution. The practitioners, I must say, because in 1979, I was a journalist in NTA in Yola. I covered the elections. And I knew the leadership, people like Jimo Bodo, Baba Jakande, Aboka Rimi, Balaribe Musa. Look at the governance at that time. There was responsibility, there was sense of belonging, and there was sincerity of purpose. They were not after material worldly things. They were not looting. But what I have from today, is it the constitution that says we should loot, or governors should loot, or people should be corrupt? It is not. It is. I still want to insist, it's the practitioners. In as much as we have sincerity of purpose, we have leadership of purpose, just like the Singaporean experience. Lee Kuan Yew came as a wretched man and left as a wretched man, but he was very sincere to give the nation clear leadership based on nationalism, not corruption, not this, because corruption is not only about stealing money. Even if you are trying to bring your brothers or your own people, somebody like me, right from day one when Buhari President Muhammadu Buhari came into politics in 2003, I was the National Director of Publicity of the party. Today, I've not been able to get any position. I follow Buhari everywhere in this country. Speaking about this party, did I get anything in this government? Am I participating? I've also been marginalized. Therefore, this issue of marginalization, forget about it. Everywhere, almost everywhere, you find people crying on marginalization. Let me tell you, honestly and sincerely, even if it is within a city center or a town, if you give somebody leadership, you find somebody will also cry. Therefore, in Nigeria, the more the merrier.
Okay.
I still want to insist.
Yes.
Nigeria is a wonderful country. God has abundantly blessed us with everything that we could move forward, everything that we could turn around the fortune of this country to make Nigeria great among Community of Nations in the world. And we only need clear leadership quality. Let us get a good leader. Believe me, by the time we come to 2023, if we have a very defined leader that could put the national interest at heart and also map our strategies for developmental plans, believe me, we'll forget about all this Odudua group. We'll forget about all this Biafra. We'll forget about all this Hausa Fulani, this Hausa group that are trying to say they also want to succeed, those young boys. We need ourselves.
Okay.
Every Nigerian is a factor. And every geopolitical zone, I think God has brought us together, not by mistake. It is by design and also by the fact that this country is great and it shall be great. We will never get divided. I'm telling you. I am an incurable optimist that this country will move forward. Let us have a good leader that could turn around the fortune of this country.
All right.
And God give us that.
All right, let me just take this last message now on WhatsApp. It's from Olayinka Makinwa from Dulce here in Abuja. He says, please, when some analysts shower praises on Singapore, I just laugh. That is, if the man that made Singapore what it is today comes to Nigeria as a swap, believe me, the man won't succeed because of our known biases and deep-rooted unpatriotic followers, otherwise called Nigerian citizens. That's Olayinka's take there. All right, I just want to say thank you so much to my panel. Public Affairs Analyst Donald Ideh. Thank you so much, Donald, for coming through.
Thank you. Kamri, nice to be here again.
And ace veteran journalist and publisher Ibrahim Modibbo. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you, Kamri.
And the Punch columnist is a newspaper columnist with the Punch. He's also an expert on electoral matters. Jide Ojo, thank you for coming down as well.
Thanks much for the honor.
And Anthony Ehilebo, thank you so much for showing up as well. Anthony's a publisher and he's a politician. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you very much.
Lawyer.
And he's a lawyer as well.
Yeah.
Most importantly.
That's the first and foremost.
Anthony's a lawyer. You see now, that's his professional identity.
Professional identity is not. I'm not a professional politician.
There you go. But you're a professional
It's
lawyer.
a side gig.
All right. All right. Thank you all so much, gentlemen. Right. That'll do it from Frankly Speaking this evening. On behalf of the entire team, thank you all so much. Interesting. I didn't know my sister was following the discussion from the UK. She says 2 words. You see, that's our family. Very, very simple. Said mindset matters. Thank you, Rekia. All right. Thank you all so much once again. On behalf of the entire family here at WeFM 106.3, thank you all so much for listening. Have yourselves a wonderful evening.